Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the official launching of the fourth ISWA YPG online conference. This year with the theme, The Path Toward 2030, the Envisioned Decade of Changes Toward a Circular Economy Era. My name is Amani, and on behalf of the organizing committee, it is our great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this conference. I am the co-lead of the Research and Innovation Working Group of the ISWA YPG and the postdoctoral researcher in environmental engineering in the UK. I'll be sharing today's program. This conference is an annual event organized by the ISWA Young Professionals Group, which aims to create an international platform to promote young professionals working in the waste sector all around the world to share their innovative ideas. The current environmental disasters that we are witnessing worldwide, from wildfires in Europe and the Middle East to inundations and floods in America and Africa, have proven that the increase in waste and emission from all sectors have contributed to the climate change and accordingly have proven that our economy is linear rather than circular, and that especially the young generations will pay the price. In this context, I believe that the ISWA Young Professionals Group can provide the platform for young professionals and researchers in the waste management sector to network and bridge the gap between academia and industry. This will for sure lead to responsible young leaders in the waste sector who believe in the necessity of this transition to circular economy. So we, as young professionals, should be the catalyst for this transition. Therefore, this year, we will emphasize the path toward 2030, the reference year of the SDGs. We give chances to more speakers as possible to be part of this conference organized only by young professionals for young professionals. Finally, we would like to give a voice to those who do not have a voice, to marginalized communities, to informal workers, while underlying the importance of having an interdisciplinary support to move toward the circular economy era. For this conference, we have launched a competition and received abstracts and posters from researchers from 20 nationalities. From a very competitive call for abstracts, we built 4 sessions and the 3 best presenters will be awarded. Best of luck to all presenters. We are excited to hear about your innovative ideas. I'm also delighted to announce that there will be 3 scholarships to attend the ISWA Swiss Winter School next year, which is an outstanding program on sustainability and waste management. We are grateful to Professor Sahadat Hussein, Director of the Swiss School, for awarding these prizes. In addition, 3 individual ISWA memberships for 1 year will be awarded to the winners. For that, we would like to thank Dr. Arne Ragosning, Managing Director of the Eco Consultant, for sponsoring these memberships. The conference is divided in 2 days to cover all time zones with a comprehensive program. The second day of this conference will start in about 29 hours and will be shared by my colleague Dr. Navarro Ferronato from Italy. You are most welcome to join both days. Today we are going to have 1 panel session and 2 main sessions. We are proud to host a diverse program with more than 25 young talents from 20 countries, from different backgrounds, research topics, cultures, nationalities, and gender. We are grateful to host this conference for attendees from all nationalities all around the globe. Please use the chat on the right of your screen to introduce yourself. Comments and questions to speakers are most welcome. You can submit them by typing in the questions interface. Make sure to identify to whom you are addressing them. Wish you all an excellent conference. To commence this impactful event, I am pleased to invite Mr. Dan van der Zen from Netherlands, the chair of the ISWA YPG, to provide some highlights of the YPG before we proceed to the conference sessions. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Amani. Thank you very much. And wow, it's amazing to see so many people coming in, attending this conference, and looking at the preparation that you, Amani, and Navarro have had together with the rest of the organizing committee. I'm 100% convinced that it will be an amazing conference these 2 days, and I'm really looking forward to hear from all the speakers that have announced themselves. In order to share some insights on the on ISWA for those who are not familiar, and the YPG in particular, I've prepared a few short slides and hope to inform you a little bit on what we're doing and how we are organized. And hopefully, for those who are not a member yet, I can share some insights and hopefully, may enthusiast you to become a member and join our mission. So first of all, again, also on my behalf, my name is Daan van der Elzen. I am the chair this year of the ISWA Young Professionals Group, and I welcome you to this the fourth online conference already. Again, it's a yearly event, and the level is raised every year by the organizers. And again, this year I'm 100% convinced that Amani and Navarro have done a great job together with the rest of the organizing committee to set a great online conference again for all of you. A little bit about ISWA, for those who are unfamiliar with the International Solid Waste Association. ISWA is the world's leading network promoting professional and sustainable waste management. And it's a very unique network in the sense that it brings together all sorts of parts of the waste management sector. So there's the private sector with a lot of collection and recycling activities. There's the public sector where policies are made and municipalities that oversee the waste management and the collection activities in their cities and countries and regions. And of course, very importantly, and also highlighted today, I think, the academic sector where research is done, innovations are discovered and created that help the other two that I just mentioned in performing even better and making sure that we can make this transition towards a circular economy in the future. ISWA has over 1,300 members from 109 different countries. So really a unique global network that is, I think, of value for everyone that is working in the waste management sector. And then within ISWA, there are a lot of working groups, but there's also a special group called the Young Professionals Group. And currently that consists of a very international oriented group, again, like ISWA as a whole, of 150 waste professionals that are 35 years or younger. Those are sort of the rules that you need to fit in to join the Young Professionals Group. And within the Young Professionals Group, again, we've organized several working groups that, each and every one of them organize their own activities or programs to help young professionals. I've listed in this slide a few examples. So to start off, the Mentorship and Career Development Group is really focused on organizing webinars, for example, to highlight and showcase some of the different career paths that you can choose within waste management, where the mentorship part is really focused on linking young professionals to experienced waste management colleagues, and to learn from their experience. Then the Research and Innovation Group, that's a group focused around research that has a few large events every year, which the online conference, of course, is the biggest one that you are present at right now. The Education Group is really focusing on waste management education. They currently have organized, for example, an education program together with young professionals in Portugal. But we'll be translating that into English as well, so it can be used worldwide, or maybe translate into other local languages. The Young Professionals Group is also trying to create local and regional networks. We already have quite an active few in Latin America, for example, or Malaysia, India, Pakistan. And these networks are really focusing on also creating, besides a international oriented group, also local groups where knowledge can be exchanged and developed. And then we have the online discussion meetings, the webinars based on any topic that you can imagine from the waste management sector. And last but not least, we have a marketing and communication team really to assist the other working groups in promoting their activities, and also just to promote our group as a whole internationally, and promote our mission. That's very short about the conference. Before I let you go and enjoy the rest of the sessions, I wanted to shortly highlight the flagship project of the Young Professionals Group for this year. That's Rubbish, is what it's called. And what we are doing is trying to bust a few waste myths that are still present around the world, and really make sure that everyone is well informed and aware of the value of proper waste management and the importance for combating, for example, climate change. I wish you a very good 2 days. Enjoy all the sessions, and I look forward to hearing from you and see the questions that you have. If you have any questions on YPG in specific, feel free to ask and contact me. And you can follow us on a lot of different channels that I just listed. And thank you for your attention for now. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll pass it on back to Amani. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Let's proceed now with our second invited speaker, Honorary Chair of the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking great pleasure in introducing our conference Honorary Chair, Dr. Arne Ragosny, who will give an opening address. Dr. Arne is the Vice President of ISWA and Director of Managing Partner Eco Consultants in Austria, which are also sponsoring this event. Let's welcome again Dr. Arne. Dr. Arne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amani. Thank you for the nice welcome. Thank you for providing the opportunity to share some thoughts using this platform. And first of all, thank you all, the leading team of the YPG, to organize such a vivid network, such an international network, to do this exchange and to organize such events like this online conference. So besides Roland and Dan, who I want to mention personally, I also want to thank Navarro and Amani, because I know very well what it means to organize a conference. I did organize several conferences myself. So thank you very much for providing this platform. These types of platforms are really needed because the challenges that are ahead are big, and we need a lot of information exchange. We need a lot of discussion in order to be able to solve these challenges. I would like to share some considerations in the context of circular economy. Some considerations about some terms that I got to know about 20 or 30 years ago when I went to university. Professors wanted to address, or wanted to explain about the meaning of circular economy, recycling rates, and things like that. And to be honest, it took some time to really understand what's behind it. And so I think it's very important to use such a podium to let the young professionals to share my thoughts, or to share thoughts and experiences with the young professionals. And at the end, I would like to talk a little bit about future prospects of the sectors and those involved in it as I see it. So I think we are all aware of why circular economy is important, and why we should do it, and why we have to achieve sustainability development goals. It's not just about the high resource demand of our societies, it's very much also about the high energy demand and high environmental burdens associated with production of goods, with providing of services and things like that. Just to explain, one of the major streams is construction waste. Construction waste is responsible, or the construction sector is responsible for about 40% of the raw materials extracted. And the construction sector also emits about 1/3 of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and is responsible for 40 to up to 70% of the waste in the waste sector overall, depending on where you draw the system boundary. So what is it about circular economy? Amani just mentioned that currently still our economic system seems to be rather linear than circular. And up until 2030, we really need to go circular. So if we go circular, it's very important that we keep in mind closing a loop means that we have to reintroduce secondary resources. So it's not just collection and treatment of waste as traditional waste management is conceived to do. It's also about providing secondary materials of qualities that allow for recycling. And recycling is not just collecting something. Recycling is really introducing secondary resources into the loop. And in order to do so, in order to be able to do so, this will also mean that we have to think a lot about the design of products. But as the design of products is not the primary purpose of the waste sector, we need to interact. We need to interact once with the product designers, with the marketing departments, with those who provide products, and on the other hand, with those who produce those products in order to be able to reintroduce secondary resources. So those are the big challenges ahead. In the European Union, we know that we have the circular economy package that defines rather high recycling rates. So the concept of recycling rates is manifested very much in the European Union through this circular economy package. And we see here recycling of municipal solid waste should go up to 20 to 55% in 2025, 60% 2030, and 65% 2035. And one of the major streams, which is really difficult to achieve those targets for, is the plastics. The plastics packaging, but even more, the plastics as a whole. So the recycling rate have been defined, but if you define a recycling rate, you always have to define where the calculation point is. I will come back to this in a minute. And if we talk about recycling, it's very important that we keep in mind that it's a whole cycle or a whole value chain that we have to see. It starts from the product design. As I said, we really need to think about product design. We have to think about, do we need multi-layer plastic films, or do we need composite materials, or is it possible to change the product design in order to allow for a better repair, for a better reuse, for a better recycling? So then there is the use phase, and in these phases, the products or the goods are clearly regulated in the chemical legislation or product legislation. But once the product life cycle ends, then it becomes waste, and then the waste legislation is something completely different. Then there is the collection and transport needs, the sorting and processing needs, and at the end, if we talk about recycling, the recyclables, the secondary materials, need to enter the product stage again. And this is a very complicated interface between the waste sector and the product and the production sector again. It's also a legal issue whether residue or secondary material is still considered to be waste, or whether it's considered to be a secondary material that can be used for product. And there is a lot of different regulations around. There's also a consultation process in the European Union going on at the moment in order to address this issue, because if we talk about circular economy, if we talk about recycling rates, we need to find a good solution here. And it's also about making sure that we don't reintroduce pollutants, but I will come back to that in a minute. So overall, recycling, circular economy, there is many different dimensions that we have to look at. It's not just the technical dimension. The technical dimension is probably the one we're most likely to see as engineers, at least, as it is about innovation in processing, innovation in finding ways to recycle or to process respective waste streams. But there is also the legal dimension, as I just mentioned. It's not just about the interface of waste and product, but it's also very much about getting the legal approval, for example, for new installations. So if we talk about an increase of the recycling rates, we also talk about an increase in the investment need, an increase in the number of plants needed to provide, to enable us to increase the recycling rates. And those plants need to get legal approval. And this is a real tough procedure in societies like Austria or Germany. These types of legal procedures many times last for 5 to 10 years, depending on the size of the plant. So if we put this into perspective with the timeline of reaching those targets, we see that the time is very, very short. And in addition to the technical legal dimension, also the economic dimension needs to be seen and needs to be acknowledged for. And this is dependent on raw material markets, on processing cost, and availability of waste. And what do we mean with availability of waste? For example, if we allow for transboundary shipments, these wastes will not be available on the market. These wastes will not, how should I say, transponder shipment can be an easy way out to solve a problem. And this is not the way it should be. I think it's important to find a solution in a context, for example, in the European context, and not to export the problem. And from the European perspective, I would say that the limitations in the transponder shipment have been a very good signal, and also a very important regulatory aspect in order to create a demand on the European market to solve the issue. And thereby the waste is available. Thereby there is a need to create plants to find solutions, and this allows for new developments. So it was a good thing. On the other hand, on the European market, we need to make sure that from one country to the other within the European Union, still some transponder shipment needs to be possible. And on the right upper corner, you also see the ecological dimension, but I think we're all aware of it. Recycling or waste management options need to make ecological sense as well. So we have to be aware of the ecological dimension as well. I mentioned earlier that it's important not to reintroduce pollutants, and I think this is a real crucial point. It's about also about final sinks, so clean circles and final sinks. We have to make sure that we do not reintroduce pollutants into our products, because once they are reintroduced, they will harm during use, yes, but they will disable a future recycling once the good that includes also recyclates is being recycled again. So I think it's very important to focus on clean cycles and final sinks. Two terms I learned from Professor Brunner from TU Vienna about 20 years ago. At that time, it was hard for me to understand, but now I understand very well. We really have to make sure to find final sinks for the pollutants. So looking at this example of quality criteria that are shown on this slide, this is about scrap glass. Scrap glass started to be recycled about 40 years ago in Europe. At that time, scrap glass was just a minor resource for the glass industry, but this changed a lot. During the last years, scrap glass became the major and the main raw material for the glass industry. And on this way, from being a minor resource to the main resource, the quality criteria changed a lot. They became stricter and stricter because the more secondary material is introduced into a production cycle, the more important the quality criteria are. And it's very important from the beginning to be aware of this and to put a focus on that. Okay, and one other point that I really want to stress, as I said, recycling is not just collecting or separately collecting specific types of waste. It's about collecting and sorting and processing, and at the end recycling. So recycling at the end is the substitution of primary material by secondary material. And on this value chain, there is several steps. It could be at least 3, 5, it could be maybe 10 different treatment steps. And every single treatment step, every single process has a certain efficiency. And we all know if we add processes, the overall efficiency is the multiplier of the individual efficiencies. And we see here on the line, in the lines below, the numbers for 2020 for plastics recycling in Austria. We see a 58% efficiency of the collection, 58% efficiency of sorting and processing, and 78% of recycling. Comes up with a final efficiency or recycling rate of 26%. And the targets are above 50 just in about 4 years. So for this, we need to increase the efficiency of every single process, sub-process to 80%. And this we have to be aware of when we define recycling rates. And also we have, as I said, to define where to calculate the recycling rate. It's not just after the collection. Everything that's collected is recycled. No, that's not correct. And even if we use the term I recycle for just separately collecting waste items, this is not correct. I think we should really be consistent in the use of the wording, and therefore I would like to stress this. So what I wanted to express with these slides is that we really need to use all the opportunities, all the options to address the challenges. It's not just collecting the waste and then it's recycled, as probably politicians or some people think, but we really have to look into the details. We really have to find ways on all these levels. So at the end, the objective of sound waste and resource management must be to make secondary resources available at qualities needed for recycling, and very much also to make sure to establish clean cycles by separating pollutants, so to find final things. Let me come to an end and just mention two slides about the prospects of our sector. I think it's very important to know that all these challenges that we have to solve demand an increase of complexity of waste management. It's not just disposal and take a lorry and bring it to the landfill or dump site. It's much more. There is an integrated waste management system with a lot of interactions, with a lot of logistical needs, with a lot of technical needs. So the complexity increases very much. And this is also kind of a problem. The complexity sometimes is not easy to overlook. But definitely, there is a lot of jobs, a lot of need for competencies, and for new talents in that sector. That's what I wanted to convey. And if we look at the people involved, as I said, a huge rising demand for related competencies throughout the world. The challenges might be different in different regions, but at the end, it's the same principles. And at the end, it's very important that we exchange our information, that we exchange our know-how in order to address the challenges on a global scale. It's also true and also important to know that we are in a sector where we need a lot of persistence and a lot of networking, because what we do is not needed in the first hand. It's needed definitely to solve the global problems, but individual people may see where the waste is not collected, but whether it's recycled or not at the end is not visible to the general public. So in order to bring about a change, any individual needs to be persistent, needs to be somehow on a mission, like Dan just said. And then there is two more points. The slides just went away. We need to have a high degree of innovation and a high adaptability. This is very important also because the products change, the need for processing change. If we process waste, we create different streams with different properties that needs to be addressed again. So it's very complex and very interesting, rewarding sector. And at the end, belonging to those who make it real, who really bring about the change, is highly rewarding. And I think this is something everyone involved in the sector should know. These are my thoughts, my considerations. I'm really happy about this conference, and I just heard it's more than 300 participants. So I really wish you a very good conference, and I'm sure you will get to know a lot of information. You are embedded into a big network that will also be very important for your future. All the best from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Arne, for your informative and wonderful presentation, and for all the keynote messages that you delivered, which are necessary to achieve a transition to circular economy, and for addressing the issue of clean cycles and the true definition of recycling. Now, let's proceed with our panel session. Ladies and gentlemen, here we come to our panel session on achieving SDG 11, making human settlements sustainable. And I would like to invite Mrs. Aditi Ramola from India to moderate this session. Mrs. Aditi is a technical director at the International Solid Waste Association. Let's welcome again Mrs. Aditi. Aditi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amani. Do you see me?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel for today will be about making human settlements sustainable, and also the work that is connected to Sustainable Development Goal 11.6, as well as UN Habitat's Wastewise Cities tool that is being applied around the world to do data collection as well as baseline assessments, among other things. This is because you cannot manage what you can't measure. And so following from Arne's presentation just now, we know that moving to a circular economy is important, but even more important right now is to actually know how much of the waste that we want to deal with and how much is there around the world that is not being measured at the moment. So before we start, I would like to introduce you to our keynote speakers and panelists. Our keynote speaker is Ms. Nele Kapp. She's based in Kenya. Nele is working on solid waste management as part of the Urban Basic Services section at UN Habitat, which is the United Nations Human Settlements Program. She has a background in environmental science as well as environmental and bioresource management, and she has worked as a consulting engineer before joining UN Habitat. Welcome, Nele. It's nice to have you here. Before I give her the floor, I would also like to introduce you to our panelists who will be enriching our discussions with their thoughts and insights on making human settlements sustainable. So our first panelist is Swati Singh Sambyal from India. Swati is a resource practitioner and researcher with many years of experience in waste management. She's currently affiliated as a waste management specialist with the UN Habitat in India. And prior to that, she worked at the Center for Science and Environment for several years. She's currently based in Delhi. So welcome, Swati. It's really nice to have you here. Our second panelist is Eshete Sitotau from Ethiopia. Eshete is currently working as a research assistant at the UN Habitat in Ethiopia. He's mainly engaged in a Wastewise Cities feasibility study report tackling plastic waste in the environment. Welcome, Eshete, to this panel. And our final panelist for today is Mr. Satya Oktamalandi from Indonesia. He's also known as Andik for short. Andik is the Secretary General of the Indonesia Solid Waste Association, where he works on innovative projects such as the Clean Oceans through Clean Communities. Welcome, Andik. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And welcome to everyone to be joining our panel today. To start with, I would like to invite Nele to give her keynote speech, and then we will proceed into our panel discussion. Nele, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aditi, and welcome also colleagues, and welcome for everyone who's listening in today. Good morning, good lunch or noon, or good afternoon and evening, wherever you are. Thank you for listening in. So as Aditi said, I'm going to talk a bit about the Wastewise Cities tool. And there we go. So we'll get right into it. So you'll get to know what this is all about. Maybe as a short background, I mean, these are just some numbers I don't really have to tell, I think, anyone who's listening in today. But we all know that there is a great, problem out there, which is mismanaged municipal solid waste. And UN Habitat has launched a program in 2018, which is called Wastewise Cities, and which aims to improve waste management and resource efficiency in the world's cities through 4 action areas that you can see here on the slide. And as part of one of these action areas, waste data and monitoring, this is kind of what I'm going to present to you today. And of course, also, this is linked always to all other of those action areas, because of course, whatever we do, it's not always only just in one thing. Like we know that there's not only just one box, but we also have, like, it's always interconnected with other things that we are doing. So as a background, as hopefully all of you knew, we have the Sustainable Development Goals as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And they, for the first time, shed light on waste management. And there are specifically 3 goals that are really directly linked to waste management, which are Goal 11 on sustainable cities, Goal 12 on responsible consumption and production, and Goal 14 on life below water. And here you can see that there's several like indicators, like each goal of the Sustainable Development Goals has targets, and each target has indicators to measure that target or the achievement of the target. And I want to bring your attention to the first one, which is highlighted in orange, at least at my laptop. And this is about target, like as I said, Goal 11, Sustainable Cities. And then we look at 11.6, which is the reduction of the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities. And there we have an indicator, which is 11.6.1, and it is called the proportion of municipal solid waste collected and managed in controlled facilities out of the total waste generated by the city. So for each of these indicators, there are so-called custodian agencies within the wider UN network assigned, who are kind of in charge for developing a monitoring methodology if it's not already existing, and to also like support in bringing this methodology to like out there. And UN Habitat is the co-custodian agency for this indicator. And as such, we were part of developing this monitoring methodology. And well, while doing that, we kind of found out that it's actually a very nice opportunity to collect some primary data on solid waste management in a city. And then this is actually very comes in very handy if you have to do, like if you want to plan projects, if you want to develop a strategy and so forth, because there's a lack of data on waste management around the world, and especially in developing countries. And we really see this as one of the major challenges for hinder the improvement of solid waste management. And that's why based the outcome kind of this monitoring methodology is what we call the Wastewise Cities tool. It's an implementation tool to achieve the 2030 agenda in waste management, and basically it's a rapid assessment. It can be done in 1 to 3 months, depending on the resources available, the size of the city, and the participation of stakeholders. It was developed by UN Habitat together with a variety of partners based, as I said, on the SDG indicator 1161, and also like a lot of experts input from on expert group meetings were part of the development of this methodology. The abbreviation for Wastewise Cities, or the acronym, is WAGT. That's what we found very helpful, and this supports cities and countries to report on their progress towards achieving the waste SDGs, so 1161, but also 1231 and 1251, which are about recycling and food waste. Now, what does it actually measure? As you see up here again, the wording of SDG indicator 1161. And in the end, what we are finding out is all numbers for everything that you can see here. So basically, we look at it looks at how much waste is being generated, municipal solid waste is being generated by a city, how much of it is being collected, because some of it will be collected. In many countries, some of it will not be collected and will remain uncollected. And maybe just to let you know, for us, what we consider as collected is anything that is reaching either a recovery facility or a disposal facility. So if, for example, waste is being collected and then dumped on into a river, we don't consider this as waste that is being collected, because it still is not reaching any facilities. So this proportion, uncollected municipal solid waste, is anything that is not reaching facilities and thus ends up in the environment. And this can be very high in some cities, very low in other cities. Additionally, as I said, we have here recovery and disposal facilities, and we distinguish between controlled and uncontrolled. Why? Because this target, as I said before, this is part of the target 11.6, which looks at the adverse environmental impact of cities. And the idea is that waste that is reaching facilities but is not managed in an adequate way, so in a so-called uncontrolled facility, it is still negatively impacting on the environment. And that is why you have this distinguishment between controlled and uncontrolled disposal and recovery facilities. Let me give you an example. For disposal facilities, an uncontrolled disposal facility would be, for example, an open dump site, which doesn't have any fence, where waste is not covered, where basically nothing is happening. So of course, waste will be blown away. You have leachate entering into the soil. So this is definitely has an adverse environmental impact still. And that is why during this, the level of control of facilities is being assessed. And this also gives you actually an indication how it can be improved. Then there are some other flows that we are also trying to find out during the survey. It's actually the residues that are going from the recovery to the disposal facilities, because as we just heard by Anna Ragosnik, not everything that is being going into a recovery facility is being recycled. So we have residues or rejects. And then we also have, in many countries, recyclables that are recovered from disposal facilities, for example, by the informal sector, and go back to recovery facilities. So this is kind of giving you an overview of the framework that we are talking about, but you will also hear some examples later. And how is this being done? The WAGT has 7 steps. And the first one is about preparation and getting started. Step 2 and 3 look at municipal solid waste generation. Step 2 at households. Step 3 in non-household. As part of this, in the household is really a survey where you go to households and you assess the waste they generate and the composition of that waste. And step 3 is basically the same for non-household. Then in step 4, we look at the recovery facilities. And as mentioned, here you would, on the one side, find out how much municipal solid waste is received, so the amount, and also the control level of the recovery facilities. Step 5 and 6 look at disposal. Step 5 is similar to step 4, but for disposal facilities, where you look at the amount of municipal solid waste received by disposal facilities and the control level of these facilities. And step 6 foresees a waste composition at disposal facilities to see what difference there is between the composition at household level and at the what is reaching the disposal facilities. And also this gives you some indications of the potential waste that can still be recovered out of this. Step 7 then is kind of a linkage with other important indicators. So for example, the data that has been collected during steps 1 to 6 can be used to calculate household food waste, the recovery rate, plastic leakage with some other tools, or greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. Now, how does this help cities? Well, first, they know how much municipal solid waste is generated, collected, and treated in controlled facilities. That's already very good to know. Then also during the process, and we really encourage cities to actually apply the tool supported by experts, or to be at least very much involved in this assessment, to also gain knowledge on what is happening in the city. So you'll identify the municipal solid waste recovery chain and its actors, and also engage with them. It's also, as I mentioned, you find out the environmental control level of waste management facilities and how to improve it. It overall will result in establishing better waste and resource management strategies that in turn will create business and livelihood opportunities, and provide data for larger infrastructure investment cases, as well as, based on that data, develop projects and mobilize funds. So on the bottom, you can see this project stream that we really encourage at the moment all our member cities to apply the tool, to analyze the data, to have a participatory project design, then to get connected donors and have impacts on the ground. If you're interested, visit us. I know it's very, very small. There was supposed to be a link on this one. I'm sure I can also put this in the chat. Our website, where you can find more about the Wastewise Cities tool, an intro video, a step-by-step guide, and other useful information. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Aditi and back to the other colleagues who will give you a bit of an example of what this theoretical thing I just mentioned looks like when you apply it. So thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you, Nele, for your informative presentation. And as you said, yeah, we will take this theoretical knowledge and show what we've done as applying it globally. So now we would begin the panel discussion, and I would like to ask Eshete to tell us more about your experience in applying the Wastewise Cities tool in the Ethiopian cities. So Eshete, the floor is now yours, and also your slides are already uploaded.
So thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Aditi, again, for inviting me to this very interesting panel session and allowing me to share some of the experiences, the challenges and opportunities that we have brought while we were applying this Wastewise Cities tool.
Just give it a second.
Okay.
This is, 1 second, this is Swati's presentation. Why is it switching so much? Do you see your presentation yet?
Yeah, this one is mine.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm just giving you some highlights regarding the application of these Wastewise Cities tools while we were applying it in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and what were some challenges and opportunities that we have got from here. Okay, so I think Nele has already presented briefly about the steps and how we have done all of this one. So just as an introduction, I will put you some locations in terms of specialities. So Addis Ababa is the capital city of Ethiopia and also called the unofficial diplomatic center of Africa with a population of around 4.8 million and an area of around 514 square kilometers. This city comprises around 25% of the total urban population of Ethiopia. Regarding the solid waste generation, around 2,304 tons per day of waste is estimated to be generated. And from this, 75% of waste is estimated to be also collected, and the per capita 0.5 kilogram per day is also generated. So after we have got the endorsement from the senior management, we have directly went to the first step, which is also the preparation. So here we have tried to select some neighborhoods. As you can see from the pictures, we have tried to select around 9 neighborhoods for applying this tool in Addis Ababa. So 3 were from the high income, 3 the middle, and also 3 from the low income group with a criteria of housing quality or a housing structure. Maybe we will come to the challenges and opportunities later on. And the next one was we have tried to extract different data in order to stratify the income groups, because we were unable to find any data regarding the spatial distribution or stratification of these income groups. Then we have selected the sample households. We have selected around 19 sample households from here. But simultaneously, we were also procuring some equipment that are actually necessary for applying this tool in the city. After that, we have held a one-day training workshop for the survey helpers. So we have actually went to this workshop with around 27 survey helpers and I think around 3 local staff from the Solid Waste Management Agency of Addis Ababa. So here we have nominated the representative per each survey areas. So there was one representative for 9 survey areas. Okay, so there was a knowledge sharing, and then we had a methodological assessment and different orientations regarding the WAGT tool. Then the next step was step 2, estimating the household municipal solid waste generation and also the composition. Then here we have orientation on the collection. We had a door-to-door collection. We have weighted, we have recorded the collected wastes, and also we had a composition analysis that has been characterized in terms of 12 different types of wastes, which also has been outlined as per the WAGT tool. And also, even though it was not depicted on the tool, we have also done a waste density analysis. So here the first day waste was discarded, and then we had 7 consecutive days of waste collection and from the selected 19 households from the 9 neighborhoods, and 3 days of composition analysis was conducted, as you might see here from the pictures. Then the next step was estimating the non-household municipal waste generation. But here we were unable to find a reliable business license data. So we were enforced to take around 13% of the proxy of the household municipal solid waste generation that we have found from the step 2. The next step, or the step 4, was estimation of the municipal solid waste received by the recovery or recycling facilities and evaluating their level of control. So this was also another challenging part of when applying the tool. So here we have identified around 16 recovery facilities, including the informal sector, so the informal ones. We went there, on-site visit of the premises where happened, and we have interviewed them regarding the outputs, inputs, and also the challenges being faced by those facilities. So the other step was step 5 and 6. So we have done both steps in just one day. The first step was estimating the municipal solid waste received by the disposal facilities and evaluating the level of control. So Addis Ababa has only have one landfill, so it was really simple for us to identify the disposal site. Then we have tried to evaluate the level of control with the help of the different managers and consultants. And then we have done a compositional analysis on site by selecting tracks coming from different sites with the varying income groups. Then we have held the composition, the sorting, the weighing, and also the waste density analysis. And also we have also interviewed these waste pickers in order to see, or in order to estimate how much of the recyclables are being diverted to the recovery facilities. So the last step was actually calculating the food waste, the recycling or the recovery capacity, and also calculating the plastic leakage. So here, in terms of the plastic leakage, we have a very interesting tool, which is called the waste flow diagram. So we have also used that one in order to see the fates of the leaked plastics wastes. So as a challenge, the first one was, as I told you earlier, there was an incomplete stratification of households due to data unavailability. There was no data available that has been stratified in terms of income groups, because Addis Ababa is really heterogeneous in terms of housing quality. So we were unable to find this one. So we had to make a simple or a mini research regarding stratifying housing structures. And the other one was inadequate provision of these infrastructures, specifically for the wasting sites, the sorting sites, I mean. That means when we were conducting step 2 and step 6, we had to find a very suitable sorting sites to make the characterization and the composition study, but that was really challenging for us. And the other one was unable to find a baseline data for the application of this tool to run the DCA. DCA means the data collection application. It's an Excel tool that has come with the application of the Wastewise Cities tool. So we were also unable to find the population with the share of each income groups. So we also have to make another mini research regarding this one with the help of socioeconomic consultants and also other professionals. So the other one was that there was some kind of hesitancy from the partners or the local solid waste management agencies in sharing this available data when we needed them. That means, for example, we were in need of the exhaustive list of these recovery capacities to evaluate their level of controls, and we had to interview them. But it was a bit difficult for us to find such type of information. And the other one was the chosen sample households were a bit skeptical about the waste survey. There are actually many results for this one, but the major one was actually regarding there was some kind of national events and national issues, such as an election, while we were undertaking this survey. So we had to go there and receive their consent again. So some of them have refused to participate, so we have chosen another sample households. And the other one was the hesitancy or the skepticism from the private recovery facilities. So they were also in doubt about how or why we were evaluating the control level. And the other one was some kind of missing of instructions from the householders. For example, they were somehow mixing the different days waste in a single waste bag. They were not available during collection, so we had to go there like very early in the morning, and we had to make another measures. So in terms of opportunities, it's clear that applying this tool for the cities, since this is a very universal and interesting tool, the city will have a better access to a very trustworthy data for all the stakeholders. That means it will create then a platform for evaluating how the solid waste management status of that city is really undergoing. So this means it will give us a very evidence-based intervention. So as I told you also earlier, we had a WAGT training for different survey helpers. So that means this is a knowledge transfer. They will be a very good asset for the local solid waste management agency in applying the tool in a very regular manner. And the other opportunity will be, it will be good to replicable to other parts of the country. There will be also an easy implementation for the improvement of the different waste management agencies. It also really attracts donors, and it will create partnership for easier access to different investments. And also there are now different cities who are planning to assess their solid waste management activity using the Wastewise Cities tool. So they could learn from our challenges and success stories. So as a way forward, now we are planning to organize a waste stakeholder workshop, including the informal ones. And then we are planning to draft a project proposal for the potential donors, specifically for the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So we are also planning to suggest also different feasibility studies for larger plastic waste management investments, specifically in terms of solid waste management infrastructure. So thank you so much, Aditi. I will go back to you.
Thank you very much, Ashite, for this wonderful presentation and all the details. I would like to turn to Swati now. Swati, would you please briefly elaborate on the WAGT application, including the opportunities and challenges and way forward exactly how Ashite has done, because I know you've applied it in cities across India. So looking forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Aditi. And I'm assuming someone will be moving the slides forward, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think the Ethiopia study on Addis Ababa was very insightful, and probably I'll skip some steps because Eset already shared some of the things. I'll talk about probably what we found out and what challenges and opportunities that we faced. But broadly, even before starting with this coastal city where we applied WAGT in India, I think across India, majority of cities do face a significant challenge on data, which sort of, leads to bad solid waste management planning. Also, when you're focusing more from a circular economy transition point of view. And most of the data that cities have on MSW, it's based on guess estimates of studies or inventorizations that were done like over a decade. They're like mostly a decade old. So clearly, cities need interventions like application of WAGT to get to know the real-time data and to get to have better plans, master plans, and strategies in place to strengthen circular resource recovery interventions in their cities. And another issue where such studies are conducted without, following WAGT or any other such tool, the problem is that most of these estimations are done on dump sites, and by the time you do this recovery, exercise, most of the valuables are lost, and there are significant leakages as well when waste reaches landfill site or dump site. So clearly, the picture that you get is not clear and not significant enough to sort of have an elaborate SWM plan. So of course, there were quite a few learnings based on applying WAGT in this coastal port city in Mangaluru, which is in the state of Karnataka in India, having a population of about 0.6 million, about 6 lakhs. So prior to applying the WAGT, we sort of took the data that the corporation had to, prepare a waste flow chart. And as you could see, what we found out was that as per city's estimations, the city was generating about 337 tons per day of municipal solid waste, of which, about 294 tons per day was going to the dump site and about 43 tons per day was going for recycling and somewhat composting. The municipality claimed that there was no leakage or there was no uncollected waste. They were collecting everything. And what we found out was much, much more. Next slide, please. Or I could move it. Yeah, so, step one, of course, was looking into finalizing the volunteers, which were local, training them in an orientation workshop on how to apply the tool, and also doing some demonstration exercises with them on waste characterization so that they don't face any issue while they were there in the field. One modification that we made while doing the assessment was that we took 2 bags, one for wet waste, one for dry waste, because the city had an SWM bylaw in place that said waste should be segregated at source. Of course, it wasn't too successful in the city, but we thought if the city has an official gadgeted by law, we shouldn't take mixed waste from the sample households representing high, middle, and low income groups. So we took 2 bags here for wet and dry waste collection, and then sort of moved up on its characterization. There was a 10-day of intense field work that incorporated, right from distributing the bags to households, telling them in advance that you have to give us, 2-way segregated waste every day for 8 days, interviewing various commercial units and visiting 2 cities' resource recovery facilities. And this was done in April 2021, when also, a lockdown was in place, and that was like an additional challenge. And every other day, a new bag was given to household to ensure that they do remember to give, segregated waste to us in these 2 bags. And as you can see, like there's a detailed timeline that we have shared. On the lockdown days, for about 3 days, the waste was collected together. But apart from that, there was a daily waste collection. Now, these are some of the pictures of household and non-household MSW generation. So there was this municipality site where we would get all the waste from different households coming from different income groups. And there we had divided the station into 3 sections for sorting of waste and for doing the characterization study. So some of the pictures reflect what volunteers are doing. They're distributing bags, doing the characterization study, placing the bags for collection later on. And I have to say there was a lot of local and municipal support for doing this intervention. In fact, they were also quite keen on getting the results of the study and how this would enhance their interventions for the future. These were some of the pictures taken while we did our resource recovery facility mapping, which was going on simultaneously, as the household characterization and non-household characterization studies were happening by a small set of team that we had devised, and they were trained to go to these formal and informal resource recovery facilities, some apex traders, some intermediate traders, interviewing them, trying to understand how much quantums of waste was coming, how much of it was being channelized, how much of it was being disposed, and where it was getting disposed, whatever was non-recyclable. And it was quite interesting to find out that prior to the assessment, the city didn't had a detailed mapping of their resource recovery facilities, both wet and dry. Of course, the interventions on wet waste were quite minimal, but for dry waste, they had mapped about 5 recovery facilities, 5 major ones. But after this mapping exercise was over, we found out that there are about 30 facilities within the city, that were covering major epics and intermediate traders who were receiving recyclable waste and some amount of non-recyclable and low-value plastic waste, and then further channelizing it for recycling and recovery to other parts of the country. One dedicated day was spent on doing a detailed estimation at the disposal site. And of course, it was interesting to see that while the city claimed that they were collecting segregated waste, a lot of waste that was coming to the dump site was mixed with wet and dry, though the city has separate days of collection for dry waste and wet waste. So it was quite interesting to sort of, find it out on the spot while doing the characterization study at the dump site. Now we look at the ground data results. Of course, I showed you the waste flow chart before the tool was applied and after we did this detailed study. So of course, we found out that the city was not generating about 336 tons per day of solid waste, but about 391 tons per day. We couldn't sort of do the non-household characterization extensively, though we really wanted to, but there were lockdowns and a lot of institutions and commercial areas were closed. So we took a 30% proxy for estimating commercial waste generation. A lot of this waste was going to the disposal facility, about 254 tons per day, about 110 tons per day to recovery facilities. And of course, there was some significant portion that was also not reaching the facilities, about 27 tons per day. So of the waste that the city was collecting, about 93% significant amount was going for disposal, and the recovery rate was only about 25%.
Swati?
And yes.
Sorry for interrupting. We just have limited time today. So
Okay.
if you can wrap up in the next. Yeah.
Yes, just I'll do that. And yeah, these are some of the findings on before and after, the MSW composition, like what it was when the city had done some characterization study, and after WAGT, there was of course significant, numbers that came out for
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
can you
hear
hear me? Great, thank you. So we move on to our final panelist for the day. We have Andik. Andik and I are working together on the Clean Oceans Through Clean Communities project, where WAGT has been applied. So Andik, can you tell us a bit more about the baseline assessment that you've been carrying out and any of the
Yes.
challenges that you faced? Thank you.
Yeah, I will present it. Yeah, thank you everyone. It is a great honor to present here and talk with you all. I want to share my experience to using what tools for the COLCC project. For COLCC itself is abbreviation from Clean Ocean Through Clean Communities. It is a project owned by NORAD and owned by Alnos and ISWA, and we in Indonesia Solid Waste Association as the implementer, and we also incorporated with systemic and rethinking recycling academy. The goals is simple: how to achieving clean ocean, preventing and reducing marine debris and microplastic from source in partner countries. As the work package itself is consisting of 3 packages. First one is training ISWM for the stakeholders, solid waste management stakeholders in the cities, and also developing the master plan for the ISWM, and also increasing recycling rate of relevant material. And in Banyuwangi case, we have to activate the TPS3R. TPS3R is like MRF, but they are not fully MRF, but combination between sorting station, composting station, and also recyclable sortation. So the right picture is the Banyuwangi Regency, where our project is located. And if you see the different colors are the village that we are doing the work tools for the rural area. And then this is Banyuwangi. We have 25 districts, 189 village and urban village, 28, and the population is around 1.7. And as you can see also that around 87 of the population are located in the rural area. Only 30% are staying in the urban area. And why we use the work tools? Because as another presenter is saying that baseline data in developing country is rarely available. Our experience in Banyuwangi, the newest data is from 2015, and we cannot rely on this data. Therefore, we are deciding using the program to renew the data for the baseline. And the approach of the block project itself is also quite unique, since usually the ISWM services only for the urban area and not considering a village area as the primary source of this waste leakage. Therefore, we are considering Regency as a whole. Therefore, we need to characterize waste generation and composition from the village area. And also, since CLCC accommodate as WM approach and planning for master plan and what tools we will be using for a survey tools. The implementation itself, we are using our participant as surveyor. We have 74 participants from different stakeholders, and we're doing in the two phase. First phase is 8 days in between 30 November to 7 December, and we have a sampling area around from 8 villages and 4 urban area in Regency. And since we also have our national standards for waste composition and generation, therefore we are using WAGT tools modified with the national standards. And we are doing sampling for household, non-household, landfill, and recycling value chains. This is we already know what's how to do it WAGT tools, and as you can see, we have two phase. First phase is for the sampling household and non-household, and the second phase is the rest of the process. And what we found out is just like this one. You can see that total generation from all Regency is around 852.88 ton per day, and household are containing around 78%, and non-household is around. Sorry, I just mistyped. It should be the 21. So yes, it's correct. 21% for the non-household. And also the urban in the urban area, generation per capita is around 0.2 kilograms, and for rural area is 0.35. So in average is 0.37. As you can see, also the differentiation between the rural and urban is around 30% to 70% for the waste generation. And this is the composition from household. As you can see, we have the highest fraction is for the food waste, and the second part is for the film plastic, and the third one is for the garden waste, and the remaining is others. Others is defined as the waste that cannot be separate for each material. And this is for the non-household, slightly different with the household, which the garden waste is the highest fraction, followed by the food waste, and the third one is from plastic, and also the paper or cardboard. As you can see, film plastic in Indonesia or in Banyuwangi is quite high, and sometimes since it is low value, this is the main problem in every places in Indonesia. This is the waste flow diagram that we developed after our program. As you can see, 68% of waste is unmanaged, and we also conduct additional survey from for the village how they are manage their waste when it's not collected by formal system. And as you can see, and in the bottom, there are 48% are burned, and the remaining are just throw it to the river, and 8% is disposed in the land. And also we have data
Andy?
from the yes.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, yeah, this is you can see my by themselves that we only in Banyuwangi only 28% waste is collected. Moving forward, this is how we use our data to be used, how to utilize in the uses for the planning. And this is the difference between our national standard with WAGT tools. And then some remarks. This is the tools is quite good, very good to be exact, for taking generation and composition. But we need to consider the application not only in urban but in rural area, because 70% and average in Indonesia are unmanaged. And then assumption for 30% non-household generation need to be considered, since we found that only 21% in Banyuwangi. And also the findings is not only plastic, it's supposed to be, because the other materials also are flown and leakage. And recycling facility survey is a great tool to assessing what is activities in region. And but for informal sectors, need treated gently, because they have trust issue and also information consent. And in the survey itself, we need to adapt. I think it need to add value chain material flow, so it's not losing its granularity, how much is going from each level of the value chain. I think that would be all. This is
Thank you.
photo.
Thank you so much. I think there's a need. Yeah, there's a need to do a longer session, because there's so much to learn and there's so much to share. Thank you all, Swati, Andik, and Eshete, for sharing what the tools are doing in action, WAGT and the WFT that you spoke about. We are quite kind of running late already, but I'd like to give 30 seconds to all, just Nele, Eshete, Andik, and Swati, to give take-home messages that the audience can take back with them. Nele, beginning with you, keep it to 30 seconds, please.
Go home, get your municipality to collect data on waste management and use the Wastewise Cities tool.
Oh, that's perfect. That was short and sweet. Moving to Eshete.
You are muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I just would say that, local knowledge of lower level officials is really necessary. And also this WAGT tool have brought us like a very good reliable data for different cities, since it's a universal tool. So we need now a very good context specific and an inclusive waste management planning for each cities. Thanks.
Thank you, Eshete. Moving to Swati.
Yeah, I think very short. Poor data, poor plans, poor action. Good data, good plans, good action. So apply WAGT or other such interventions to have a more robust resource recovery pathway for cities. Thanks.
Thanks, Swati. That was short and sweet. Andik, finally you.
Yeah. Echo to Swati's statement that data with poor planning, and we should incorporate it with the government, how to develop baseline to have better planning for the waste management. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, and thank you also to the organizers for inviting us for this panel. I'd like to now hand back the moderation to Amani to continue with the rest of the program. Have a really nice day, everyone. Back to you, Amani. Thank you, panelists. We will see each other soon.
Thank you, Aditi, for this insightful panel session, and thanks to our keynote speakers and guest panelists.